Have you ever stood over your compost pile, poking at it with a shovel, wondering why it refuses to turn into that dark, crumbly gold you've seen in gardening books? You add your kitchen scraps, stir it around, water it a little, and wait. But weeks pass, then months, and it still sits there, damp, smelly, and lifeless. Many of us have been there, feeling defeated, tempted to give up and just buy a bag of fertilizer instead. Yet somewhere deep down, we sense there must be a simpler way, a wiser way, like the one our grandparents used before all the fancy gadgets and store-bought activators. Out on old American farms, compost wasn't a chore, it was a rhythm of life. Every peel, shell, and scrap had a purpose, and nothing was wasted. The farmers didn't have compost bins or thermometers, but they had patience, observation, and a bit of practical magic passed down through the years. What they discovered still holds true today. When you treat your compost like something alive, it begins to work with you, not against you. So, in this gentle visit together, I'll share with you 9 forgotten tricks, humble homemade secrets that can cut your composting time in half. They're not fancy, and they're certainly not new, but they work beautifully even for small space gardeners or anyone with limited strength or budget. All you need is curiosity, care, and a dash of creativity. Because you don't need money or youth to grow something wonderful. You just need to remember the old ways that still whisper to us from the soil. Remember when a bottle of milk would sometimes turn sour overnight. Long before the days of plastic jugs and refrigerators that hummed all night. Back then, folks didn't see spoiled milk as waste. They saw it as a gift. Old farmers knew that even when milk curdled or clabbered, it was brimming with something powerful, lactic acid bacteria. These same tiny helpers make cheese, yogurt, and even pickles, but they can also breathe new life into a sluggish compost pile. You see, compost isn't just a heap of scraps, it's a living community. When your pile smells sour or sits cold, it's often because the microbes inside have slowed down. Adding just half a cup of sour milk or whey once a week gives them the wake-up call they need. Pour it evenly over the top, never soaking the pile, just moistening it like a light morning rain. Within days, you'll notice something miraculous: warmth. Steam may begin to rise, and the scent will shift from sour rot to something earthy and alive. I still remember visiting an old neighbor named Clara, who kept a small garden behind her farmhouse. She was in her 70s, then her hands soft but strong, and every Sunday she poured the leftover milk from her morning coffee into her compost. "Don't waste a drop," she used to say with a wink. "Even the milk wants to be useful." Her compost, rich and dark, would steam gently in the cool spring air. That's the beauty of this old trick. It reminds us that even what has turned can still nourish life. Like many things in aging, it's not about perfection. It's about transformation. If you grew up in a home with a fireplace or an old wood stove, you might remember the soft gray ash that settled like snow each morning after the fire died down. Most folks swept it away without a second thought. But to old farmers, wood ash was never waste, it was treasure. Packed with calcium, potassium, and trace minerals, it became their quiet secret to faster, richer compost. When compost turns too acidic, it slows down like an engine sputtering without enough fuel. Wood ash used gently helps balance that acidity, giving the microbes a comfortable place to work. Just a small handful sprinkled over each new layer of food scraps or dried leaves is enough. Too much can overwhelm the pile, but just a pinch, like seasoning a meal, creates harmony. Avoid ash from coal or treated wood, though. Nature works best with what's pure and simple. I once visited an elderly gardener named Henry, who still heated his small cabin with a wood stove every winter. When I asked about the lushness of his soil, he smiled and said, "Every bit of what keeps me warm goes back to the ground." He'd empty his ash pan into a tin bucket and sprinkle it into his compost each week. That small gesture, repeated season after season, gave his vegetables a glow you couldn't buy in any store. There's a quiet lesson in that warmth begets life. Even what seems spent like ash holds memory and nourishment. In the garden, nothing is ever truly gone. It just changes form, waiting for the right hands to give it purpose again. Now, this next one might make you raise an eyebrow, but stay with me. Generations ago, farmers understood something we've mostly forgotten: nature doesn't waste a thing. Even what we flush away every day can be a source of strength for the soil. Fresh urine, when diluted properly, is one of the fastest-acting compost activators there is. It's rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the same essential nutrients found in store-bought fertilizers, just delivered straight from the source. Before modern plumbing, farmers would often collect what they politely called chamber pot gold. They'd mix 1 part of it with 10 parts of water, then pour that diluted solution over dry materials like straw, cardboard, or fallen leaves. Within days, the compost would heat up, teeming with microbial life once more. It's not a glamorous trick, but it works, and it costs nothing at all. I once met an older gardener named Pete at a small-town seed swap in Kansas. He was in his 80s with a mischievous grin and hands that looked permanently dusted with soil. When I mentioned my slow compost, he laughed and said, "Well, you're throwing away the best nitrogen source there is." He wasn't joking. He showed me a small watering can marked 10 to 1 and swore by his method. Nature recycles everything, he said. We're just catching up. It may sound strange, but it's a reminder that life always finds value in what's overlooked. Aging teaches us that, doesn't it? Even what we think is used up or unneeded still holds energy, waiting for the right moment to give back. There's something almost poetic about taking what's gone flat and helping it come back to life. That's exactly what happens when you pour a bit of leftover beer onto your compost. Once the fizz is gone, what's left is a quiet powerhouse: yeast, sugars, and B vitamins, all of which make microbes hum with joy. Back in the early 1900s, farmers who lived near breweries used to collect barrels of leftover mash and stale beer, calling it liquid gold for the garden. They knew that what no longer pleased the tongue could still please the earth. To try it today, just pour that forgotten beer over your compost pile, especially on fresh scraps or dry layers that need a jump start. Or if you'd rather skip the beer altogether, dissolve a teaspoon of dry yeast in a cup of warm water, then sprinkle that mixture evenly. It's like priming the microbial engine. You'll often feel the pile grow warmer in a day or two. I once heard a story from a couple in Oregon, well into their 70s, who brewed their own small batches of beer. Every mistake goes to the compost, they laughed. Over the years, their small suburban yard became a miniature Eden. The compost never sat idle, and their dahlias were the talk of the neighborhood. They told me the secret wasn't in the hops, it was in the habit of giving everything a second use. There's wisdom in that. Whether it's beer-bred yeast or simply time itself, what seems spent still holds potential. Our gardens, like our lives, thrive when we learn to turn the leftovers into something that keeps growing. Long before garden centers lined their shelves with neatly labeled fertilizers, farmers knew the secret strength hidden in every drop of blood. After butchering, nothing went to waste, not even the blood. They discovered it was nearly pure protein, rich in nitrogen, the very element that fires up decomposition and growth. A sprinkle of dried blood over the compost would send it into a gentle frenzy of warmth and transformation. Today, we call it blood meal, a clean powdered form that offers the same power without the mess. And it's still one of the most effective natural boosters you can use. To use it safely, all you need is a small handful mixed into layers of dry material leaves, straw, or cardboard. Within days, your compost will start heating again, the microbes fed and eager. It's nature's version of strong coffee. Too much can be overwhelming, but the right touch keeps everything balanced, lively, and sweet-smelling. I remember my grandmother's garden, a narrow strip of soil behind her old clapboard house. She was a quiet woman, but when it came to her plants, she spoke like a scientist and poet rolled into one. Every spring, she'd open a brown paper bag of blood meal, pinch a bit between her fingers, and smile. "It's the life returning to the earth," she'd say softly. And sure enough, her roses, even in their old age, bloomed with deep, velvety color. There's a lesson in that for all of us. We may lose things over time, strength, youth, speed, but what remains can still nourish. What looks like the end of one cycle is really the beginning of another. If you've ever heard the old story of Native Americans burying fish beneath corn, you already know one of the oldest compost secrets on Earth. Long before synthetic fertilizers existed, people by the sea knew that fish carried the perfect blend of oils, proteins, and minerals to nourish both soil and plant. When added to compost, it doesn't just feed microbes, it supercharges them, bringing warmth, vitality, and a depth of nutrients few other materials can match. To use this safely today, it's simple but precise. Always bury fish scraps deep in the middle of your pile, never near the surface, and cover them with a thick layer of brown materials like straw dry leaves or shredded cardboard. This prevents odors and keeps curious pests away while letting microbes feast in peace. Over time, the fish dissolves completely, leaving behind a compost so rich you can almost smell the ocean in it. I once met a retired fisherman named Bill who lived along the Maine coast. Each spring, he'd save the trimmings from his catch and layer them into a small compost bin behind his cottage. His neighbors teased him about the smell, but by midsummer they were asking for buckets of his dark, crumbly compost. "Those fish keep giving long after they're gone," he said, smiling as he patted the pile. That's the quiet magic of this old trick. It reminds us that nothing in nature is wasted. Even the simplest things, once forgotten or discarded, can continue to give life. Just like us, the earth has a way of turning loss into renewal again and again. There's something healing about the smell of sea air, that salty living scent that carries both memory and renewal. For centuries, coastal gardeners understood that seaweed was more than just debris washed ashore. It was a miracle material filled with magnesium, calcium, potassium, and natural plant hormones that worked wonders in compost. Seaweed breaks down quickly, attracts beneficial worms and microbes, and leaves behind a mineral-rich compost that no store-bought fertilizer can match. If you're lucky enough to live near the coast, you can collect fallen seaweed right after the tide recedes. Rinse it thoroughly to remove excess salt, then layer it between your browns and greens, just like a lasagna of the sea. If the ocean is far away, dried kelp meal works beautifully too. A handful sprinkled into your compost can mimic the same magic, offering minerals that feed both your microbes and your plants. I once stayed with a couple on Cape Cod who had been gardening together for more than 50 years. Each morning they'd take a short walk down to the beach, hand in hand, gathering seaweed into a woven basket. They said it was their morning prayer. Back home, they'd fold it into their compost, letting the rhythm of the waves guide their work. Their tomatoes, I still remember, were as sweet as fruit. Seaweed teaches us something simple but profound. What the world leaves behind still has purpose. Like aging itself, it's proof that time and change don't erase value, they deepen it. What looks like driftwood and weeds may in truth be the ocean's quiet gift to the garden. If your compost pile ever feels tired, cold, sluggish, or simply unwilling to move what it may need, isn't more scraps, but a strong cup of encouragement. That's where the old farm remedy of manure tea comes in. For generations, farmers knew how to wake a compost pile that had fallen asleep by feeding it the same thing that once fed the fields. They'd steep a shovel of aged manure, cow, horse, rabbit, or chicken in a bucket of water for several days. What emerged was a dark, earthy brew teeming with microbes and nitrogen, gentle yet powerful enough to spark the whole pile back to life. To make it yourself, just fill a 5-gallon bucket with water, add a shovel of well-aged manure, stir it, and let it steep for 3 to 5 days. When the water turns a deep brown, strain it and pour it evenly over your compost. You'll see and smell the difference almost immediately. The pile will warm, soften, and begin to transform again, turning scraps into the living humus your garden craves. I once met a woman named Alice in rural Kentucky who swore by her garden tea. Every spring she brewed it the same way her father had, out behind the barn in an old tin pail. Her compost never failed her even when the weather turned cold. "You don't rush the process," she said, watching the pile steam in the morning chill. "You just give it a nudge and nature does the rest." It's a lovely metaphor for life, isn't it? Sometimes all we need is a little warmth and patience. The right touch of kindness to wake up what's been resting inside us all along. And now, dear friend, as we sit back and let our compost do its quiet work, it's worth remembering what all these old tricks have shown us. Sour milk wood ash, a dash of diluted urine, flat beer blood meal, fish scraps, seaweed, and manure tea. Each of them simple, humble things that most of the world would toss away. Yet when brought together with care, they create something extraordinary, living soil full of energy, warmth, and promise. The kind of soil that turns a garden into a sanctuary. Modern gardening can make us believe that progress comes in shiny packages, that we need special powders or pricey bins to make nature cooperate. But the truth is, the old ways still whisper their wisdom to us. They remind us that patience and curiosity are stronger tools than anything money can buy. That's why our ancestors' gardens thrived, not because they had more, but because they used what they had wisely. I think of my friend Clara again, now long gone, whose compost pile sat beneath a lilac bush by her back fence. Every spring she'd stir it slowly with an old wooden rake, smiling at the steam that rose from it. "It's alive," she'd say. Just like us, always changing, always becoming. There's something deeply comforting in that thought. Composting isn't only about decay, it's about renewal. It's proof that even what seems used up still has a purpose waiting to unfold. So when your compost slows, don't rush or fret. Reach back to the wisdom of the past. Give it a little milk, a bit of ash, or a bucket of that good old manure tea. Your garden will thank you, and maybe in some quiet way, your spirit will too. Until next time, happy gardening, dear friend.